When you get put in charge of one of the biggest and most popular franchises in history, especially if that franchise has been suffering for the past several years, you're going to come under heavy criticism. People are going to question your every move, and that's exactly what's happened to James Gunn. Ever since Warner Brothers put him in charge of the DC universe, people have been questioning what he's going to do. The decision to reboot everything, the decision to get rid of Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, all these characters that people really liked in the roles. Of course, you're going to come under heavy criticism. But to be fair, James Gunn has also brought a lot of the criticism upon himself. The things he's said, he continues to speak out a lot about his plans, about what he wants to do going forward on social media, and sometimes those statements are completely contrary to things he's said in the past, and he gets called out for it, rightly so. So when James Gunn said something that a lot of people actually really agree with, they had to question, wait, why weren't you saying this just a few months ago? James Gunn says cameo porn is one of the worst elements in recent superhero movies. Shoehorning characters in mangles the story. And a lot of people said, absolutely, that's the case. We hate it when that shit happens. In fact, maybe DC will avoid what Marvel's gotten into over the last few years if this is James Gunn's attitude going forward. But then people look at, James Gunn's list so far confirmed cast for the standalone Superman Legacy movie, and they think, man, there's a lot of characters in here. Just look at this list of characters who will be appearing already. This is just what we know of so far. It does seem like a lot of different heroes and villains are going to make appearances. Who knows how substantial those will be? But of course, people ask James Gunn about that. That's why he brought up that he hates cameos so much. Well, James Gunn, if you hate cameos so much, then a lot of people have questions for you about why you were promoting The Flash as the best superhero movie you've ever seen, when legitimately that thing could easily be described as cameo porn. James Gunn's comment on The Flash comes back to haunt him after he trashes cameo porn in recent superhero movies. Because very famously, James Gunn in the lead up to The Flash trying to promote The Flash said things like this. James Gunn says Ezra Miller's The Flash is probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. James Gunn says The Flash is one of the best superhero movies he's ever seen. Now, I get it. He's the head of the studio. He didn't necessarily come up with the idea for this movie, but he did actually fine-tune a lot of it when it came down to the final cut, when it came down to final reshoot, stuff like that. You're not going to go out there and say, yeah, this movie's shit, don't see it. But there's a big difference between that and saying it's like the best superhero movie you've ever seen in your life. So, of course, people are bringing this up. And it all comes in light of this conversation he had, replies that he had to people specifically about all these castings. Now, he's not on Twitter anymore. He doesn't post on Twitter anymore. He posts over on Threads, which is why almost nobody ever sees it. And people start talking about, that seems like a lot of cast members, that it's getting a little bit crowded. And someone replies, I think what they're saying is, please no more superhero cameos setting up the new DC cinematic universe and what you've repeatedly said is a standalone Superman movie. He says, none of these roles is cameos. I'm sure he meant are cameos. We all make mistakes like that. The whole point is it's not a large film. I mean, in terms of cast. It's normal for single protagonist films to have other characters, much more unusual for them not to. And then it specifically gets called out about the cameo stuff. I call that cameo porn, and it's been one of the worst elements of recent superhero films. If a character's in a film, they have to have a reason to be there story-wise. I don't mind actual cameos if it's a glimpse or moment, an Easter egg. What bothers me is when they mangle an elegant story by shoehorning characters in. They aren't there because the story calls for it, but because for some other reason. I think you can describe a lot of the cameos in The Flash as exactly that, cameo porn. But James Gunn was involved with the final say in that movie. He's the one that said it's one of the best superhero movies ever. So which is it? People want to be able to take you at your word, James Gunn, but when you continue to put out mixed messaging, it's hard to do that. Again, I don't expect him to shit on a movie that's about to come out to say, oh, don't watch this movie, it's crap. No one would expect him to say that. But there's a big difference between that's one end of the spectrum, and the other end is saying it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life, while specifically making the statement a few months later, I hate it when movies do this. I hate it when superhero movies do this. The exact thing that describes something like The Flash. There is so much writing on Superman Legacy when it comes to how people are going to feel about the DCU going forward. For the most part, I like a lot of the castings. I got to be real. I like a lot of the castings that we've seen in Superman Legacy. The question will be, how does it play out on screen? How is it written? Are people going to be excited about this universe going forward? James Gunn has a lot of negativity to overcome, and people are rightfully going to be questioning everything he does. I think a lot of that cameo talk, to be honest, is just throwing shade at Marvel. I think it's throwing shade at the MCU personally. So We'll see what happens going forward, what James Gunn continues to say, and if that contradicts anything he's said before. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.